So the last time I covered a Chris Eubank fight was all the way back in 2018, 7 years ago. I did not expect to be making a film study on the Chris Eubank fight in 2025, but this grudge match against Conor Benn was really hyped up, so here we are. And so the first thing I want to talk about is Eubank's jab. Eubank, as the naturally bigger and longer guy, came out disciplined with a long, educated jab to feel out and keep at bay the explosive puncher in Conor Benn. Eubank did have some success with this jab, timing it very well. However, likely due to his rehydration clause, his jab seemed flat, slow, and relatively weak. Benn was almost walking right through the punches. As you can see, Eubank lands a clean jab, countering Conor Benn's jab, but Benn proceeds to follow up with a right hand as if he wasn't deterred. And like I said, Eubank did have success with his jab early on, but as Conor Benn began to get a feel for the timing and the feel for the jab, the lack of speed and power on the jab could only get Eubank so far. This would allow Benn to feel more comfortable taking a risk and trying to counter Eubank's jab, particularly with a straight right hand off of a pull counter or a slip counter. More importantly, he noticed Eubank wasn't throwing his jab in combination to cover himself, meaning there was even less risk for Benn to try to counter it. So here are a few examples of Conor Benn countering Eubank's jab with slip counters, pull counters, or even just trading. And like I said, since Eubank did not throw combinations with these jabs, Benn was free to counter without fear of another punch coming and interrupting him. While the fight through the mid-rounds was closely contested, even with Eubank edging out rounds, it was clear that he was going to struggle keeping up this boxing style for the remainder of the fight, keeping Benn at bay. The commentators were saying Eubank's legs didn't look right, and after the fight, Eubank Sr. said Chris Jr. couldn't move his legs effectively, so clearly the rehydration limit was taking its toll on him in the later rounds. So Eubank made a truly genius adjustment and became more aggressive. You see, Conor Benn is very explosive, fast, and would have turned this fight around if he continued to land big shots on Eubank. However, he needs space to be able to punch, and Eubank decided to take that space away by moving forward instead of backwards. Moving forward is also easier than moving backwards, so Eubank was more energy efficient with this adjustment. More importantly, Benn is not nearly as dangerous moving backwards as he is coming forward. As you see here, Eubank blitzes forward with punches, and Benn lacked the check hook to get Eubank off of him. Benn simply got pushed straight back to the ropes. He's forced to make a move laterally off the ropes where Eubank cuts him off with a punch, and he gets stuck on the ropes where Eubank continues to work on him. And Eubank smartly finishes with a clinch to get rest and prevent return fire from Benn. Speaking of clinching, Eubank also made the adjustment of moving forward and then forcing an inside fight with Benn. You see, Eubank is the bigger guy, so he could lean on Benn, make him carry his weight, force Benn to either push him off or move back to create space, all to wear him down. Benn has not shown to be a better inside fighter than Eubank, so while Eubank does still have to keep this punch output up to win the remainder of the rounds, he doesn't have to worry about moving his legs so much if he takes the fight to the inside, and he doesn't have to worry about snapping his punches as much, both things he is struggling to do this deep in the fight. So let's take a look at a few inside fighting techniques from Eubank. So here we see Eubank leans in on Benn, smothering him by pushing his head into Benn's chest. This allows him to sneak in a right hand to the body, since his head was blocking Benn's vision of the body shot. Then Eubank gets his left hand in, not to punch, but to lay them on top of Benn's gloves, controlling them by holding them in place. With Benn's gloves being held down, Eubank then slams in a right hand on the opening up top, as well as a left hand. Eubank doesn't stop there though. Instead of retracting his punch, he keeps his left hand there to control Benn's gloves again, holding them down. He shoots another right hand up top, but Benn is able to break free of the control and block the punch. However, with his guard up high, this leaves an opening for Eubank to punch down low again. Excellent inside fighting from Eubank. Here in this situation, Eubank is on the inside and it looks like they are stuck in a clinch. However, there's a lot more going on here than it seems. Eubank is leaning his weight on Benn, as you can see he's leaning forward, while Benn is straight up. The most important detail, however, is that Eubank makes sure that his gloves are on top of Benn's gloves. Even when smothered up, Eubank always makes sure to control Benn's gloves by taking the high ground, so to say. He can push down on Benn's gloves with gravity on his side to keep them there. So once he pushes off to create space to punch, he could get his punch off before Benn could get his hands up in time to defend. In this situation, we're going to see another important inside fighting technique from Eubank. So we see them on the inside again, and Eubank is leaning on Benn again to wear him out. He has his forearm on him to push down on him even harder. Benn stands up to alleviate the pressure, and as he does this, Eubank takes the opportunity to push Benn, breaking his balance and making him step back. Most importantly, Eubank then takes the opportunity to punch Benn while he's off balance. This is dirty boxing at its finest. One of the goals of boxing is to put your opponent in disadvantageous positions to where they have to make a positional adjustment. And as they are adjusting, you should be punching. And this is an example of that. So after this, Eubank has the defensive responsibility to roll under the return fire from Benn, then counters him, continues to push Benn back while throwing punches all the way to the ropes. This is a beautiful way to not only wear Conor Benn out, but to also score points in the process. And that's going to be it for this one. As always, thank you all for watching, and special thanks to my GOAT tier patrons, Jason Mahinan, Grant Gabriel, Albert Chen, Gostala Geza, Marshall Bott, Jesus Galindo, Nayan Valdez, MSM Neal, RC, Daniel Contreras, Lionel Johnson, Val Ravenheim, Jacob McMillan, JJJR, Suwa, Maxwell Hodge, Josiah Rozier, Braden Sosa, Defensive Genius, and Max. You all keep the channel going, as well as my channel member, Lucas Miller. I'll see you guys all in the next one, and once again, thank you all for watching.